Hello, guys. We're going to work with lesson 1.4 today, the associative properties. It's on page 19. Before we get into what the associative property is, I want to remind you that when we're working in math, we want to do parentheses and exponents first before we do anything else. So, for example, let me get my lovely example color. I love this light blue color. It's so pretty. All right, let me tell you that this is an example over here. Sorry about that. If we have 3 times 4, whoops, there we go. All right, to the second power, I know that in the parentheses, 3 times 4 is 12. And I want 12 to the second power, 12 squared. That would be 24. Okay? Just reminding you to do parentheses and exponents first. Another example, 3 times 4 squared. All right, I'm going to simplify that now. 3 times 16, because 4 squared is 16, and that equals 48. So just a friendly reminder to do the parentheses and the exponents first. Well, what if it looked like algebra? What if it has those lovely letters and those variables that we call variables in there? So let's do an example that has some variables. All right, what if we have 3x and we're going to cube that, and then we're going to take away 2. And what if I ask you to evaluate that for, and I'm going to give you a value of x. X is going to equal 2. All right, so let's just put it in there first. I'm going to say 3 times 2 cubed, take away 2. I always forget to put my equal sign. That's always why I'm going back there later to do that. So that equals, we work in the parentheses first, that equals 6, and I'm cubing the 6, and then I'm going to take away 2. So 6 cubed would equal 216, and then I'm going to take away 2, and that equals 214. Just reminding you to do those parentheses and exponents first when we evaluate things, okay? Let's do one that looks a little different. Let's move over here now. Use this space. All right, here's another example. All right, let's do t, and then we're going to plus 6 over 5t squared. Now, I know a lot of times when you see problems that look like this, it freaks people out. Don't want to do that. Just tell yourself you're doing parentheses and exponents first and work from there. So I'm going to tell you we're going to evaluate this for when t equals 2. Okay? All right, so let's just put that in there. Let's put 2 plus 6 divided by 5. And this is the only thing that's squared is the t, so that's going to be the 2. So I'll write it like this, times 2, and that 2 is going to be squared, right? Okay. Oh, look at there. I forgot my equal sign again. So this equals, we're going to do that exponent first, 2 plus 6 divided by 5. And this will end up being times 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 4. All right, now we have to multiply, do things and work with what's what's in the numerator and what's in the denominator. So let's simplify this even further. 2, haven't done anything to that 2 yet, plus 6, haven't done anything to that yet, divided by 5 times 4 is 20. All right. So 5 times 4 is 20. I believe I can reduce 6 over 20. I'm going to move over here and just do a little bit of work. Let me change my color here to show you how I'm going to do this. Remember how we can factor that out? We could say 6 is equal to 3 times 2. And I know 20 is equal to 5 times 4. And I know 4 is 2 times 2, right? And since it's not even up here at the top, I'm going to multiply by 1. That's not going to change anything. That will just help show me that these 2's can cancel, right? And this fraction is equivalent. 3 times 1 is 3, and 5 times 2 is 10. So I know now, I'm going to change my color, okay? I can go back, and since that's my fraction, I now know that I have 2 3/10. Alright, so even when you start with something that looks as crazy as t plus 6 over 5t squared, when we think about the steps, it will help us work that out. Alright, now when we talk about the associative property, let's write that down. Let's change color here so we can see that we're doing something new. Let's use blue or dark blue. Okay, so if we talk about the associative property, we've already done the commutative and the identity. Think of associative property like you associate with a group, and then maybe another day you may associate with another group. You're moving your groups around, and that's all that the associative property means, is that when addition is the only operation in an expression, and the parentheses can be moved around without affecting the answer. So here's an example. Well, I want to get my pretty color, so let's get my pretty color out. So an example of this associative property would look like this. 3 plus, right now this group is associating together. Imagine that you're the 7 and you're over here with the 5. Okay? That is the same thing as if the next day you wanted to, the 3 wanted to, the 7, if you're the 7 and you want to associate with the 3 and leave the 5 over here. You can do that when you add. You can also do that when you multiply, because remember, multiplication is simply addition, a quicker way. So let's say you've got 3 here and you're going to multiply it by 4, and 4 today is associating with 2. It's in that group together. It is the same thing as if the next day the 4, your 4, you decide to associate with the 3 and leave the 2 over here. That's the same thing. It's not going to affect your answer any at all. Okay? You're just changing your association for that day. So I like to make it as applicable to us as we can. So let's do some real life examples with algebraic expressions here. Now we're going to use these variables in here. So here's another example. I think it's just an excuse to use this color all the time. I love this color. Let's put some letters. All right, we've got Y, and today you'll be Z. All right. Z wants to associate with 3. Z plus 3. Y plus Z plus 3. Well, tomorrow Z wants to associate it with Y. So we're going to write an equivalent expression using that associative property. So now Y is associating with Z. Ha ha ha. Leaving poor 3 by itself. Aww. Well, that's okay. It's being fair. So let's try another one. Let's say let's do multiplying this time. We've got 5 times, and we're going to make it algebraic and put a variable, x times y. Your x and you're associating with y today. But tomorrow you want to associate with 5. So 5 doesn't feel left out, right? So now you are 5. Let's close the parentheses here. And you're associating with x. Or I'm sorry, you're x and you're associating with 5. Ha ha ha. As if x were a person. And multiplied by y over here. So these are equivalent expressions. They're equal to the same thing. Doesn't change anything. Alright, so if I asked you to write equivalent expressions using the properties that you know for, let's do this. Let's just say, hang on, my pen size decided to grow exponentially, I should say. Way too large. I don't know how that happens to me. Alright, let's change this. Okay. So we have, let's do this. Let's say x plus 5 plus y. Alright, and we're going to use maybe associative property to write an equivalent expression, maybe a commutative property to write an equivalent expression. Alright, so let's show what all this could equal. Okay, alright, let's associate with a different group. Let's say 5 wants to associate with y now. So we could write x plus 5 plus y. So 5 is over here with y. Alright, another equivalent expression could be, oh, couldn't I just change that around? The commutative part, right? I could say x plus y plus 5. That's the same thing. What if I said this time I'm going to, let's just do the associative property and switch these around. Let's do y plus 5 over here plus x. Does that work? Yep, that works too. They're all still equivalent. There's so many different ways. That's just 3 different ways to write the same problem using the associative property, and here using some of the commutative property in there. So that's what we are going to work on tomorrow. Oh, I got one more to show you. I need to show you a multiplication algebraic expression that we could move around and use the associative property with. So let's do that too before we go. Let's say 3. X wanted to associate with 3 today times y. And I said write an equivalent expression, something that equals the same thing. Well, what if X wanted to associate with y the next day? We could do that, right? Or maybe I could use the commutative property and just change and put x times y over here and put 3 on this side. Same thing, just moving everything around. I could even go with what I have right here and do the commutative property. Sorry, the associative property again. And now I'm just going to leave x by itself over here and multiply it by y times 3 and let y times 3 associate with each other today. So many different ways that you can move these variables around using the associative property, using the commutative property, and write equivalent equations. All right, we'll do some more work on this tomorrow. Thank you guys.